Hi, Colin. Oh,
Hi, Irina. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining.
I'll take myself off if we are recording already. Yeah, I'm not sure. So today it's like ask your questions sessions, or you have a main topic to talk about.
Yeah, I've been doing the series on holism, and I've gone quite deep down into that and what the holism is and how it works. So I thought tonight I'll just do a different topic, and the topic can be anything that anybody wants to talk about, or over the years, people have asked me questions, and some of the common questions I can address tonight that I've been asked over the years. Um, so yeah, it's open discussion. So if you have a question, please go ahead and ask it. Or if you just want to listen, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I have a question, but maybe you will have to answer other ones first, or maybe you have a written list of things that you'll answer. Or do I have priority because I'm here on the live?
Yeah, let's start with you.
Okay, so in things in other lectures that you have given, you talked about traversing the void and having enough soul codes to traverse the void, which what I get it's a bit like the gateway between the first and second harmonic universe. And can you go back to that a little and just say whatever you feel is relevant, recapitulate maybe?
Yeah, it has to do with the state of the consciousness of the being. Um, every being, every living thing is a soul being. It has an energy field, and that energy field it has a particular structure. And included in that structure are what are called soul codes. And our soul codes are really just like a hard drive on a computer that hold all the information about our past lives and about this current and this current incarnation. Um, and that information is not only held in our soul codes, it's also held in the Akashic records. And from the Akashic records, they go to what is called the Hall of Records, which is held in the God worlds. So, in a sense, everything that has ever happened anywhere in the universe is known. There are no secrets in the universe. Everything is known. And when uh, if we want to traverse from dimensions 1, 2, and 3 to dimensions 4, 5, and 6, we have to pass through a kind of a buffer zone, which is a no time, no space zone. So time and space are um, they just don't exist there. I'm not looking for the correct word, but they're suspended. So time and space, from an energy point of view, there are no light and sound waves in that energy field. So it's an energy field devoid of light and sound waves, and it's necessary to buffer the energies between the dimensions 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. Each three dimensions has a buffer zone, and that's just to uh, create a clear construct for traversing through into other time-space continuums and other um, dimensions. And in a normal ascension, humans have to pass, in order to get into dimensions 4, 5, and 6, they have to pass through the buffer zone. It's sometimes called the void. And it's called a void not because it's a vacuum, it's called a void because there are no light and sound waves there, just because of the way dimensional spaces, time and space are separated from one another. So it's, in a sense, it's like having a number of circles. You get 3 circles and then a space, and then 3 circles above that in the space. And each of those circles represent light and sound waves, which light being information, sound is magnetic, emotional energy, and the third circle is the pulse, which determines the frequency or the rhythm, the rate of pulsing and rhythm in that particular zone. And there are many zones like that throughout the universe. The universe is just made up in these reality fields, because in a sense, reality doesn't really exist. It exists in our consciousness only. And we create the reality. When I say we, I mean not just we, me, the individual, but we, the collective, co-create the experiences that we have in any life experience. And so, in a sense, part of our journey is collecting soul codes. Now, we do that in different ways. We do that through our experiences and our reaction to those experiences, or our responses to those experiences, and those choices we make. And that determines the frequency of the energy that we produce through our thoughts and our emotions that are recorded in our soul codes, which then get connected to the the rest of the recordings of our lives. So the soul codes soul codes know everything about us. They hold all the information about all our lives and this current life, and we can't fool the soul codes. So when we go through the void, it's like we go through a passport control system where we have to answer who we are. And it's not like we are handing a passport. There is just an examination of our soul codes. And that examination determines whether we can gain entry into the higher levels of consciousness. And remember that our soul codes correspond to our DNA. So often people will depict this as you have to accrete and accumulate a certain number of DNA strands in your DNA in order to ascend, but it's actually worked the other way around. It's your soul codes that determine your eligibility to ascend. So in a sense, that identity, when we go through that period, we can't fool the universe into thinking we are who we are not. The universe will know exactly who we are when we enter the void. And in my first journey through that period of the journey through the void, this is the process that I went through. There was an examination of myself, and then where some correction was necessary, they have what they call a quarantine field. So one can be quarantined in the void in order to correct any miasms that exist in your cell codes that don't belong there. They are not part of your authentic soul body. And it has a lot to do with authenticity. So we can't fool the universe into trying to pretend we're somebody who we're not. We go there naked because they can read everything about us, not only physically, but spiritually as well. Sorry, we've just had someone join the conversation. So yeah, and the problem that a lot of people are going to have going through the buffer zone is they don't know who they are. So when they get there and they ask the question, who are you? The resonance in their souls will show one story. And if they are not in alignment with that, then they won't be allowed through the passport control, as it were. So we are identified by our soul resonance, and it all has to do with light and sound waves. In a sense, we are energy bodies, conscious energy bodies, having experiences in a holographic reality field, and that our experiences and our responses to those experiences will increase the frequency of our soul bodies to an extent where we will be able to advance through the soul codes. Now, in this particular ascension cycle we are in, which started in 21st of December 2012, and it continues to 21st of December 2045, we have an opportunity to ascend with Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is due for an ascension, and her ascension will be through her stargate, which is the sun. And so it's going to sound very funny, but the sun is not out there, it's actually in there. There's an inner sun in Earth as well as an outer sun. The outer sun is just a depiction of what's in the Earth. It's like everything we experience in our reality is actually within us. And we project that reality out into a holographic reality field. Remember, we talked about holisms and how holisms are a depiction of the many parts of something expressed as a whole. It's like our body has many parts to it, and it's expressed as a whole body. But the many parts of the body are also expressions of our soul codes, because our soul codes carry our genetic history. So every gene in your body, every bit of DNA has encrypted in it all the information about you. And although we've analyzed DNA and said DNA, has certain components to it. The four components that come in various combinations that create a DNA directory, as it were, of each person's DNA. And no two people have the same DNA, and most people's DNA is quite unique, and it contains all the information of their genetic history. So people who, for instance, are European could have traces of Asian or African DNA in them. And likewise with all people all over the world, except in Africa. Africans only hold African DNA. The only species on our Earth, a human species, that only has African DNA, unless there's been intermarriage with some other race group, then they will have mixed mixed DNA. So yeah, the DNA plays a very important part of determining our identity, because our facial features and so on are all determined by our DNA. But we must remember that the soul body holds all that information in the soul codes of the soul body. So it's very important for people to begin to understand the structure of the soul, and it has a very determined structure. It works in a particular way. It has a Merkaba field that generates energy, and that is the life force energy that is transmitted to the body. That life force energy is transmitted from the soul body through our chakras into the body, and then it's distributed through our bodies through the ley lines or meridian lines, as they're called by acupuncturists, to various energy centers in the body, and it's distributed from there. And so the body and the soul, in a sense, are a holism. They're not, they're all part of one whole. And remember, when I spoke about holisms, holisms have many parts, but the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So this greater expression of all the parts in our soul body are interconnected with the souls of everything else around us. Because remember, if we are light wave, and if we are beings of light and sound are waves, and waves come from somewhere and they go somewhere. So we have a universe which has a certain construct of light and sound waves that I speak about in my courses. You know, how light and sound waves look like. And we ought to get to know what light and sound waves are, and what differentiate a light wave from a sound wave, what differentiates amplitude with frequency, and so on, so that we begin to become more aware of this energy field we live in called the soul. You can call it what you like, but it's just a field of energy. In a sense, in this paradigm on Earth, our soul is a plasma field, because the plasma represents the substance that replaces physical matter in the next harmonic universe, which is dimensions 4, 5, and 6. So this plasma body around us is being prepared for its next portion or journey in its evolutionary journey cycle into a higher dimension, which is dimensions 4, 5, and 6. And in earth science terms, plasma is just a field of highly charged ions, IONS. And your plasma screen, for instance, on your computers and television sets and some of your cell phone screens, those plasma screens are just highly charged fields of ions that can be switched on and off and to electrical signals. And that's how they managed to manufacture a picture on a plasma screen. So yeah, but the soul codes are very important, but how one navigates one's soul into higher dimensions is taking back control of your thoughts, of your emotions, of having higher standards and values, and then having attitudes of mastery. Now, the attitudes of mastery, as I explained in my course in time, space, and timelines, that time is divided into potential time, probable time, potential timelines, probable timelines, and possible timelines. And our thoughts and emotions determine our potential in determining the frequency of the timeline on which we're going to experience our reality. And remember, I said there are 1,728 timelines, and we all hold potential in the first 12 timelines. And then the probabilities, we have probabilities in 144 timelines. And then possibilities, we have possibilities in the 1,728 timelines. So where our consciousness is stationed will be determined by our thoughts, our values and standards, and by our attitudes. And that will largely determine where we are now. People tend to think of an ascension cycle as, or ascension process as us going somewhere. But that's not the case. When I traveled through the dimensions into other dimensions, excuse me, I didn't go anywhere. I was asleep. And it was just my consciousness that traveled. And when I was in a higher dimension, I had a physical body. So I asked my higher selves who were with me, how was it that I had a physical body in another dimension while my physical body was in this dimension, was still in bed asleep? And they said, because your consciousness, your soul travels through the dimensional fields, and your soul holds all the soul codes and the template for your body. So wherever your soul goes, it goes into a different holographic reality field, and your consciousness then recreates your body in that holographic reality field. And in this reality field, we have physical bodies, matter physical. In the next harmonic universe, which is dimensions 4, 5, and 6, we have plasma bodies. But then our soul becomes an etheric soul. The matter in our soul body becomes an etheric soul, preparing us to go into dimensions 7, 8, and 9, which are the etheric realms. So yeah, traveling through time and space is about your consciousness, your conscious being, your conscious awareness, traveling through time and space. Your body doesn't go anywhere. Your body can be situated in 1,728 different places at the same time. because that's how time and space works. Time is not linear. We actually don't understand time at all. You know, when I first, when I was a little boy, and they told me about time that, you know, the Earth is divided into 360 degrees, and some people at 0 degrees have a different date than if they traveled west. So I said to myself, well, if I lived there, I would travel west and go back east, and then west and back east and back. And if I did this over and over again, would I go back in time or forward in time? But that's not how time works. Yeah, so I won't go into time, but just to answer your question on soul codes, it's the passport. But one doesn't have to worry about soul codes, because your actions and your words and will express your thoughts and your emotions. And if you learn how to control your thoughts and emotions, which is a heck of a thing to do, one then prepares one soul code subconsciously in the realm of consciousness to go into a higher dimension. But things are being done to human beings at the moment that are raising their awareness, raising the Earth's awareness. And I've dealt with this in some of my posts on how the Earth is being prepared for an ascension, and how we are being conformed to Mother Earth's soul template, so that we can ascend with Mother Earth into a higher dimension. Because we ourselves can't ascend, because the stargates and Q sites are under the control of the fallen ones here. So, but they don't have the control of Mother Earth's stargates and Q sites. In the higher dimensions, they don't have control of the cosmic stargates and Q sites of Mother Earth. So Mother Earth's universal stargate is in the sun. So we'll be taking not a journey. We don't actually travel through the sun, but the energy from the sun will raise us to a higher level of consciousness and awareness to be able to take us through a portal in the sun to another time-space continuum. And it could look very different from what we have now. The Earth will still be the Earth. We'll still be who we are. But the environment changes. And I've been into higher dimensional space, time and space, and it is very different. There's significant differences, and there's some things that are not different. Form doesn't change. Form stays pretty much the way it is. It's just the colors, the intensity of the colors. The sounds are slightly different. The sky is slightly different. The weather is very different, because Earth has an unusual weather system, because our Earth is tilted at 23.4 degrees to its magnetic spin. We have summer and winter, and we have tides and waves, and that tilting of the Earth's rotation creates a leverage and instability in the weather patterns here. So when we go into higher dimensions, we will avoid that, and the Earth will be realigned on its north-south axis, and its rotational spin will be the same. So it only means you'll have different weather depending on where one is situated, nearer or further from the equator. Yeah, so that you don't get this instability of weather systems, you don't get wind. It's very still, very quiet in higher dimension, because it's that tilting of the Earth and the differential between the high pressure and low pressure systems that causes the weather differentials here, and the tides and the currents and all are affected by the Earth being tilted at 23.4 degrees. So when it's on its north-south axis, you don't have that instability. So that's one of the things I noticed about being on another planet in another space-time continuum. It's but you know, this journey of ascension is something that people are not aware that they are going through. But as I said, things are being done. There are energies coming through the sun from the galactic central sun that are raising the consciousness of the planet. But it's also examining the Earth soul template and soul codes, because all of the life living forms that and soul beings that live on Earth have the experience on this hologram called Earth. All that information is known by the galactics, and they know what adjustments have to be made in order to affect people to go into higher dimensions. Because humans are really quite strange beings, and I say this with deep respect because I'm human, fully human, and it took me well, to put it in plain terms, a hell of adjustment to my consciousness to try to figure all this stuff out, to understand it, because we are trained with false information. We are trained with lies, and you know, like we are schooled that 2 + 2 is equal to 4. But if we see that 2 + 2 is equal to 5, we say, well, it can't be 5, it's 4, because that we indoctrinated with a consciousness that 2 + 2 can only equal 4. But in higher dimensions, for instance, you go there, and they showed me this, that you see 2 + 2 is equal to 5, then you say, what is the potential that has to be added to the 2 + 2 in order to create the 5? And you say, well, that potential could be a 1. So let's add a 2 + 2 + 1, we create a 5. So we've changed the potential of that equation to create a different equation, to create a different outcome. But humans look at things and they say 2 + 2 must equal 4. They don't examine the potential for anything different. And so they lose that ability to think outside of the box. And because that's the way they're taught. They're not taught to look for potential. Like 2 + 2 + 99 minus 100 and 100 would also give you the answer of 5, wouldn't it? I'm not sure. I'm not thinking mathematically at the moment. But you see what I'm saying? We tend to think in linear and logical ways. We call it logic, but it's not really logical, because it's illogical to leave out important factors in an equation. So we don't examine the things that are wrong with this planet because we are taught that 2 + 2 is equal to 4. So we don't look at what the potential exists for 2 + 2 to equal 5. And so we miss out on that potential. We can create probabilities out of that equation. If 2 + 2 + 1 is equal to 5, then what we've examined the potential is 1, but what are the probabilities with them? Well, we can change that equation in different ways and put it into different levels, strata as well. So we increase the 2 to 3. So we have 3 + 3 plus 2 is equal to 8. What is the relationship between 2 and 5? And if we do this mathematics, we come out with something called the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden mean ratio. We add 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. You add 2 plus 1. You say you take the answer to the equation, you add it to a number of the equation, and you get 3. You see, so if you add 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. And then 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. And so you can create a non-linear spiral. Okay. And because humans think in this logical way, the beloveds are trying to find ways to get people out of this hypnosis that they're in and this indoctrinated mind, to get them to think out of the box. Because I've been out into other space-time continuum, and when you meet other beings there who are 10 to 12 feet tall, they don't look human, but they're very advanced beings. They're more capable than humans are. They have more advanced bodies. You know, they have incredibly different features from humans. So if you suddenly bump into them in the universe and you don't know anything about the universe, you won't know who they are, because all beings come from a particular time-space continuum. So the blue avians are from the star system Sirius, which includes Sirius A, B, and C. And once D existed, but it's no longer there. So, you know, understanding that space is a very big thing. But it gets back to that notion of the holism. And there are many parts to the holism, and each part has a part to play. But the interesting thing about the holism is that all the information of the holism is held within each part. Now, a good example of that is if you take a holographic film or something and say an apple, and you have this 3-dimensional film depicting an apple. But if you cut that film in half, both halves will hold the whole image of the apple. And if you cut those 2 pieces of film into 2 again, you have 4 pieces of film. All 4 pieces of film will hold the image of the apple. That's the nature of the holism. All the information of the holism is carried by every single part. Now, that is something that I think humans are going to find very difficult to understand and accept, because it really boggles the human mind. I remember it boggled my mind completely, and I thought I was going mad when I was contemplating these things. And, you know, I thought that I'd really lost my marbles. Because I just never used to think that way. I never used to see these angles and different rates of light and frequency and sound frequencies, and I didn't understand the 5 senses, and I didn't understand the 6th sense and how they all work together through a holism. So our experience of life is through those 5 senses that are put together in the holism called the 6th sense. And so the 6th sense is really just a holism where you have different parts of the holism all in one holism, but every bit of the holism is carried in all the different parts. So the smell of a rose, for instance, will equate to the sight of the rose, to the touch of the rose, to the texture of the rose, to the taste of a rose. that way inclined, you can taste it. But I hope you're beginning to understand what I'm saying. The human mind cannot easily understand this at all. So the beloveds are bringing energies that are going to help us to restore our own soul templates as well as Mother Earth's soul templates, so that we can be conformed together into one holism again, because at the moment the humans are under control of something else. They're not being controlled as a holism. They're being controlled as a slave system, where the controllers, the slave owners here, are hiding the shadows. They don't want us to know who they are. They don't want us to know what they're like. So we really are like three blind mice, wandering in through space and time. But all of that information is going to be restored on the planet. And it's already been restored, through people all over. I meet them, in different podcasts and so on. And just by example, when I started out in 2006, when I first woke up and decided to dedicate myself to this knowledge and information, there were very few people online doing or talking about this. But now there are dozens. In fact, if not hundreds, because now they're popping up in other countries that don't speak English. I've come across them in Africa, in Asia, in South America, in some of the island nations, and this conscious awareness is growing at a rapid pace. And so it's all having to do with restoring the restoration of the soul templates of humans. And that's not an easy job. It's a complex operation that's been undertaken, but I have some understanding of how it's possible and what is possible. So when the Earth goes through the void, there's some beings who won't be able to go through the Earth. That's why there's a new Earth being created and an old Earth, and the new Earth will separate out from the old Earth. It's not the physical conscious, physical Earth, it's the plasma Earth will move away. This Earth's soul body will move through a portal, and the physical Earth will continue on its journey somewhere else. Probably to be swallowed by a black hole eventually, but that's a story for another time. I hope I've answered that question for you thoroughly, Irina. So if anybody has a question, I'd be happy to answer it. Right, no more questions, then I'm going to call an end to this, and see you next week for those who'd like to attend and have their minds boggled again. Love you, and don't take life too seriously. Life is too short and too important to take seriously. Love you now. Bye.